Nidhi Kumar, your host for today's session, and we're extremely excited to have present before you Eat Right India initiative of FSSAI, adopted by Herbalife Nutrition. A big shout out as we acknowledge our broadcasting partners, the Josh app, Daily Hunt, and One India, and also the Metro app. And together, we'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you who are watching us today. And through this session, friends, we would emphasize the importance of understanding exercise, performance, and mindset as a whole, and how important it is for everyone, from elite athletes to someone who wants to start exercising. And we have with us today the very renowned, the very eminent Dr. Donna Ryan, Director of Sports Performance, Nutrition and Education at Herbalife. Thank you for joining us. A little more about Dr. Donna Ryan. Dr. Donna Ryan is responsible for helping establish Herbalife Nutrition as a global leader in sports nutrition. Her primary focus is supporting Herbalife Nutrition sponsored athletes around the world by developing nutrition and sports. I'll say this again. Her primary focus is supporting Herbalife Nutrition sponsored athletes around the world by developing nutrition and sports performance programs, as well as designing and managing sports, clinical trials, etc. Ryan has worked with members of the LA Galaxy, Flamengo, Barcelona, FC, and Liga in Ecuador, football players training for NFL, combined, and other athletes in support of their nutrition program. Very, very privileged and honored to have you here with us today. My first question to you, Dr. Ryan, is why is it so overarching, this need for nutrition now, not only in India, but globally?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And I think that's a great question. I think sometimes, we disconnect the food that we eat with what happens in our body. And everything that we put in our body has an effect on our body, whether that's positive or negative. And so if you are eating overly sugary foods, tons of processed foods, unhealthy foods, that's going to have a negative impact on your body. But if you're putting good quality foods, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, good quality protein in your body, that's going to have a positive impact on your overall health.
Absolutely. In India, there is a saying which comes to my mind, Jaisa ahar, vaisa vichar. You are what you eat. And so rightly you said that, this is the primary need. And since our program today is so much about well-planned, nutritious diet, before I ask you other questions on athletes, I would like you to tell us a little more from your expertise as to how would you term well-planned, nutritious diet?
So a well-planned nutrition diet is something that you think about all day long, right? I know I'm not 100% sure in India, but in the United States, so often we only have protein at night, when in reality, protein needs to be throughout the entire day. We need to stay hydrated throughout the entire day. And so it's all about all the small decisions that we make over time. And I think one of the things that scares people is they think, well, I'm not eating healthy today, and then they think they have to change everything tomorrow. But the reality is just making small little changes every single day over time is going to lead to a well-planned diet that actually feels like a habit and feels like it's something that's easy to do. Because when we focus on a diet, it's about what you can't eat and what you can't do. But when you have just a nutrition plan that's part of a healthy lifestyle, now you can focus on what you can do and what you can eat.
Absolutely. But Dr. Rand, tell me, you keep meeting so many of these sports people who are making the country proud, who are making globally a name for themselves. So in that category, what are the 5 do's and don'ts when undertaking physical exercise?
Yeah, so I think that when we look at elite athletes, we think they have it all figured out, but they're still often trying to figure out nutrition, how to incorporate that into the routine. And that's the same for the everyday person. I think oftentimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for the work that we do. We think, okay, the people on TV are athletes and we're just people that are exercising. But in reality, I think we all, if you're out there and you're pushing your body, you really are an athlete, but you want to make sure that you're taking care of your body, especially when you start exercising. And so if you're someone that's just getting into a routine, maybe your end goal is to run a marathon, and that's amazing. But you want to start slow. Start slow, celebrate the little wins, and progress as you go. So I think that's one major tip is sometimes when people make the decision that they're going to start exercising, they just go for it. But it's very important, start slow, celebrate the little wins, focus on the improvements that you're making in fitness rather than on your weight. So often when people start exercising because they want to lose weight, and they start weighing themselves every day, and then they get discouraged by that. But if you track your fitness, you're going to be amazed at the progress that you make. And then the last tip is don't forget your nutrition. It's important to hydrate during your exercise, but it's also important to start your exercise already hydrated. So like you said, it's about planning your nutrition throughout the entire day. And lastly, probably most important, because this is the biggest mistake that we see people make, especially females, honestly, is people think I'm going to exercise, I want to lose weight, so I'm not going to eat afterwards. But the reality is it's so important to eat after your workout. It's going to help you build lean muscle, which is going to help increase your metabolism, which is going to help you get to those body composition goals that you're looking for.
Absolutely. So tell us what is a pre-workout concept and how much to hydrate, because you just mentioned hydration.
Yeah, so the way I like to think of sports nutrition is we want to make sure we take care of our body before we work out, while we work out, and post workout. And so when we go from, right now you and I are sitting, our body has certain demands and certain requirements. As soon as we start exercising, those requirements and those demands change and they become a lot higher. And so it's very important that we support that process of going from sitting to exercising. We do that with a proper warm up, so taking time to warm the body up, but also with nutrition. Nutrition can help support that warm up process. So whether it's a little bit of caffeine, whether it is some carbohydrates to get you fueled, and also hydration. So during the day, you want to aim for about 8-ounce glasses of water throughout the day.
Right. Absolutely. Then how does protein kind of figure in your workout, or should it be protein and carbs combo?
Yeah, so protein's interesting because it's so important for your workout, but it's not necessarily something you need during your workout. It's what you want to have as soon as you finish your workout. So within 30 minutes or so after you exercise, you want to have between 20 to 40 grams of high quality protein. Now, one of the biggest myths out there is that you only need protein after you work out. But the reality is you need a combination of protein plus carbohydrates. And that's going to depend on the type of exercise that you do. So say you are an endurance athlete, you go out and run, you ride your bike, you swim, whatever it may be, you want to add extra carbohydrates. So typically we suggest about a 3-to-1 carbohydrate to protein ratio for endurance athletes. So that means if you're having 20 grams of protein afterwards, you want to have about 60 grams of carbohydrates for an endurance athlete. If you're doing a lighter workout or you're doing a strength training type workout, you want to aim for more of a 1-to-1 protein to carbohydrate ratio. So 20 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbohydrates.
Well said. I think that makes a lot of sense. But tell us, a lot of myths are also circulating about dairy versus plant-based nutrition for fitness. Which is right and why?
Great question. And this is something that we get asked all the time. And I think the question boils down to, is 1 gram of protein 1 gram of protein, no matter the protein source? And the answer is no. So we want to make sure proteins are made of what we call amino acids. And a protein has different combinations of amino acids. Now, there are 9 of those amino acids that are considered to be essential, which means the body cannot make them. We have to consume those essential amino acids for the body to get them, and we need them. So when you look at like a dairy-based protein or any animal protein, those are always going to be complete proteins, okay? So you know if you're having a dairy protein that you're going to get a complete protein. Now, a lot of athletes like dairy-based protein because it has 2 components to it. It has whey protein and casein. So whey acts very quickly in the body, and so it helps you with that immediate recovery. Casein is a slower digesting protein, so it helps you with sustained recovery. Now, that's not to say you can't be a plant-based athlete. You just want to make sure that the proteins that you are consuming have an adequate amount of those essential amino acids. So if you look at, say, soy protein, that's also actually a complete protein. So it has all 9 of those essential amino acids, which the body needs. So it's really, you can go either way. You just need to make sure you know what you're consuming. So for example, if you just are eating a pea protein or just a rice protein, you're going to be missing some of those essential amino acids. So it's a little bit more tricky unless you're consuming like a soy protein to know that you're getting all those essential amino acids, but you can certainly go either direction.
I love that insight, incidentally. And now we talk about prebiotics like fish and eggs. They have iodine and selenium content. How important are they for building a fit body, as some sports people only consume egg white?
Yeah, prebiotics, it's interesting. We've talked about probiotics for a long time, but prebiotics also help contribute to the health of our microbiome, which is kind of our body's internal environment. By consuming prebiotics, you're going to really help out your microbiome. And you might think, what is that? What does that do for my overall health? Well, the more we learn about the role of our microbiome, it is incredible the impact that it has on our digestive health, our overall health, our mental health. And so by having a healthy digestive system, by having a healthy microbiome, it is going to have countless benefits on our overall health and performance. So certainly having a lot of those prebiotic foods, and there's a lot of nutrients. We talked specifically about eggs. There's a lot of nutrients in that egg yolk. So certainly not something to skip out on.
Yes, I agree with you. Tell us a little more about gluten-free grains like chia. How beneficial are they in sports and why?
Gluten-free is an interesting topic because most people don't need to go gluten-free. A lot of people think, oh, I went gluten-free and I lost all this weight. No, you probably just cut out all the processed carbs that you were eating. It probably actually had nothing to do with the gluten. Gluten-free can be life-changing for some people. I know I'm personally allergic to gluten. So when I found that out and I cut it out of my diet, it was like a whole new world for me. But in general, people don't need to avoid gluten. It's really just getting good quality whole grains into your body and staying away from those processed carbs.
Yes, unless you have a gluten allergy, is what you're saying. You need not avoid. Absolutely agree. But if I ask you your recommendations on what to consume after workouts, now I'm going to break this into 2 different segments, which just crossed my mind. Dr. Ryan, you're dealing with so many athletes. Some may be weightlifters, some may be marathon runners, like you said, sprinters, swimmers, and the like. So, are there different recommendations for what to consume after workout, or does it go the same way for all?
Yeah, so there's some things that are similar and some things that are going to be different. So when we look at during workout, we really, for an endurance athlete, we really want to make sure that they stay hydrated and fueled. So for that athlete, we really focus on getting 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So if they're out there doing, a 3-4 hour bike ride or run, we got to make sure that they continue to get carbohydrates through that workout. When it comes to after the workout, same thing. Those endurance athletes are going to need more carbohydrates than the strength athlete, but everybody across the board needs at least 20 grams of protein after their workout.
Yes, and if we talk about the female athlete triad, as we see low energy availability, that can lead to other health issues such as low bone mineral density, menstrual function disorders. What are your views on female athletes, and especially after they, stop playing their best game or their
Yeah, I
best
mean,
innings? What happens after that?
yeah, I
How
mean,
do
this
they
is a
take care?
real serious, um, it's a real serious issue for females, and it's not something to be taken lightly because it can impact your health for a very, very long time. And this really happens because of caloric restriction. And I think we see it a lot in sports that also are either weight restricted or there's an image component. So gymnastics, figure skating, those sorts of sports. And so it's very, very important to focus on the fact that strength and getting adequate calories is what is going to get you to your optimal performance. And as soon as we start restricting those calories, it's going to lead to a whole host of issues that frankly can plague you for the rest of your life, right? And you don't want to mess with your body's hormonal system. It's just not a good idea. So if you have any females that you think are restricting their calories, that's something that needs to be dealt with immediately. It can be a very hard thing, and it's amazing. Look, I was a gymnast growing up. I understand that world of coaches hitting your belly and telling you look like you have a watermelon in there, and things that are just frankly unacceptable. And it happens, and it's very, very damaging. So we have to be very careful of how we speak to female athletes, especially young female athletes, because it can have a much greater impact for a long time than we ever realize. And so for females out there, strong is the new skinny, building muscle is healthy. This is what your body needs. Your body needs those calories for you to be able to perform at your best.
There's another question that comes to my mind since you put that so well, which is that what happens to a woman when she's so obsessed with her, lean image, as you said. And this is a very generic question. This is a very generic question for the entire world, and it's a very important question. Is that on one hand she's obsessed with getting back to her, say pre-pregnancy weight as an athlete, and on the other hand, there is a flip side, like you said, there's a watermelon, and those kind of comments keep coming. So, what is your take on this? How should women react? How should the girl child react? How should the girl athlete react?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to be kind to ourselves, right? Your physical appearance doesn't affect your performance, right? And if you're coming back, if you were just pregnant, again, be gentle with yourself. Your body just went through this incredible transformation and just brought life into this world. Give it grace and time. You don't have to be back to your pre-pregnancy weight immediately. Move your body, get your heart rate up, sweat, build some muscle, enjoy your time with your newborn. I think that that's one of the things that new moms, they forget how exhausting it is. You're running up and down stairs with your kid. When they become a toddler, you're chasing them everywhere. You're burning a lot of calories doing that. So don't be hard on yourself if you can't get to the gym when you're carrying 2 kids up the stairs. That's basically doing stairs with weights. So be kind to yourself when it comes to that. And then for the younger female athlete, again, there's so much of a societal pressure to be skinny. Social media is great for so many things. It's also terrible for so many things. Once you get the filters and you get the, people don't look like that in real life. And I think it's very hard especially for young females to see that, to think that that's the ideal that they have to live up to. And that's not it. The ideal to live up to is strong and energy. That's what you want to have. And as soon as you start starving yourself, not only, will your menstrual cycle stop, you will have no energy, you won't be able to perform your sport to the extent that you want. Your skin will be affected, you'll look gaunt and not healthy. It's just, and the damage they can do to your organ systems. And so really that focus should be on healthy eating enough food. Food doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think so often we think about it as just being unhealthy to eat a lot. You can eat a lot of really healthy food, and that's a good thing and what a growing body needs.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that answer. Wonderful. And I think this is going to be a big boost for everybody listening to this, and a boost in their morals as well, all across the globe, because you said something that touched a chord in my heart. Your recommendations now to improve sedentary lifestyles, as they've become so prevalent now, how difficult is it for people in the sports arena?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We don't realize how detrimental sitting can be. And on the other hand, there's this expectation that, you go and make sure you get at least 30 minutes of exercise every single day. And so we don't talk about the middle ground. And so often people think, well, I can't do 30 minutes of exercise, so I'm not going to do anything, right? But actually, something is always better than nothing. There was actually a study that was just published here in the US about the incredible benefits of just adding 10 minutes of exercise a day. And that goes to the concept of what's really important is to move more and sit less. So, I know a lot of us here in California, we are still working from home. I think we'll be working from home for a little while now. Just 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, jog in place, do some jumping jacks, do some squats. You don't have to have an expensive gym membership. You don't have to have any fancy equipment. There's so much you can do at home. And we know, you take a guy that goes to the gym for 30 minutes in the morning, works really, really hard, pushes his body, and then sits at his desk 14 hours a day, stressed out. That's going to have more negative consequences than that person that's kind of moving around all day. So the most important thing is, whether it's setting a timer on your phone to get up and move around, just make sure every hour you're doing some movement, and then that will really add up over the days.
Wonderful. I agree with you totally. And lastly, I'd like to ask you, as we're talking about the future of sports and nutrition, what are the basic areas we need to cover as a landscape, and what are your views on how we could, lift this up further?
What I love about sports nutrition is that the face of sports nutrition is changing. When we looked even just back in the last 5 years and said, who needs sports nutrition? Who is using sports nutrition? It was the elite athlete, it was the bodybuilder, it was the super ripped, strong looking people. And now when we look at who's buying sports nutrition products, who's engaging in activity, it's anyone and everyone. So there's no age limit. There's no gender requirements. There's no body requirements. Anybody that is active can need and use sports nutrition, because it doesn't matter if you are the fastest person or the strongest person, or you've been exercising for years, or you're 85 years old, or you're 20 years old. Every single person that has a body that's moving, that's pushing yourself, needs sports nutrition, needs to build muscle, because building muscle is so critical at every stage in life. So it's fun to see all the new people embracing sports nutrition and saying, you know what, I may not look like that person on TV, but who cares? I'm pushing my body. I'm becoming the best version of myself. And to do that, I need sports nutrition.
Yes, and as you rightly said, sports nutrition is not just for athletes, but for everyone. What according to you is an active, healthy lifestyle? And we'll end with this answer of yours.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I think there's two things there, right? Is who is an athlete? And there's professional athletes, there's elite athletes, and then there's the rest of us. Just because we're not a professional or we're not elite, it doesn't mean that we are not an athlete as well. If you're pushing your body, if you're getting your heart rate up, if you're stressing your body, you're an athlete. And it's so important to fuel yourself that way. But to your last point, being an athlete is not just about the 30 minutes you're exercising, the 45 minutes you're exercising. It's a lifestyle. So it's having a good breakfast. It's staying hydrated throughout the day. It's consuming protein throughout the day. It's staying away from the extra processed foods. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have a treat every once in a while. If you're, most of the time eating a healthy, good quality food, have that dessert or that treat when you want. That's also part of a healthy lifestyle, is not being afraid of certain foods and just knowing that 90% of the time you're putting good quality food into your body. And so it's really that balance, and it's again getting that movement throughout the day.
And on that very, very pragmatic note, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Donna Rand, for your valuable time and insights. Our deepest and warmest gratitude goes out to Herbalife Nutrition, to Eat Right India initiative by FSSAI, which is bringing a huge awareness in the society to make a healthier India and a healthier globe. A special shout out to our broadcasting partners, the Josh app, Daily Hunt, One India, and the Mitro app, for helping us reach millions. I would like to conclude by saying that if we invest in better nutrition now, we can ensure a brighter future for everyone, everywhere, for the next 100 years and beyond. On that note, many thanks for watching. Namaskar. We're very happy to have with us a very warm welcome to Dr. Barni, Associate Professor, Department of Food and Nutrition, Institute of Home Economics, New Delhi. A little bit about our very eminent guest. She's done her BSc Honors and MSc Food and Nutrition from University of Delhi, and has been in charge of changing nutritional outcomes in India through FSSAI. She did a PhD in nutrition from the Faculty of Science, University of Delhi. She joined Institute of Home Economics. Her areas of interest include management of non-communicable diseases, maternal nutrition, and the role of diet in mental well-being. And she's guided researchers on management in NSDs, health through wholesome nutrition, and was a principal investigator on a UGC-sponsored project. She's associated with a number of national institutions and professional bodies. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. Always an honor to interact.
I'd like to begin with a question like, what is the need of overarching need for nutrition today in India, or even in the globe?
Yes, of course. So, sometimes, as I said, we sometimes tend to overcomplicate the concept of nutrition. It is something very basic to us, something very basic for our survival, health, and well-being. And if once people understand the role of nutrition, a lot can be controlled through diet per se. So nutrition basically means what we derive from the food we consume. And over the years, we have developed our good immune system because of the foods we are consuming. And now what we are we are going through a pandemic time where the role of nutrition is even more important. And it's not because, people are not falling ill. If you have a good immune system, you will perhaps fall ill, but your disease time will be lower, the severity will be lower. You will perhaps suffer from lesser consequences. So you will tide through it better as compared to a person whose immune status is compromised and has a poor nutritional status. And on the other hand, we also are seeing like an imbalance of nutrition in our country. We have undernutrition on one side, we have overnutrition on the other side. And a lot has to say, it is all because of the poor food choices we are making these days. So if you dwell into the concept of overnutrition, there is, we have problem of plenty now, so to say. We are not choosing the right foods. We are perhaps consuming foods which are adding on to calories, adding on to extra salt, adding on to extra fat. These foods are also low in fiber. These foods are low in other micronutrients. So we are seeing a lot of micronutrient deficiencies. And on the other side, there are families who have not enough food to eat. So food has a very, very important role, and the nutrients which this food provides will help us in building up a strong immune status and tiding through any life course problems.
Absolutely. If I ask you to describe nutrition in 2 lines, what would those be?
So nutrition is basically the what we derive from food. Anything which we derive from food, which is going to help us in our complete well-being, and that includes both physical as well as mental well-being.
Absolutely. Tell us something about the Eat Right Smart City Challenge by FSSAI.
Okay, so Smart City Challenge is a very interesting sort of competition which was initiated by FSSAI, I think in April last year. And they've in fact collaborated with Smart Cities Mission with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And it's like a competition open to about 140 odd cities in our country. They had to fill an online form. And the idea behind this very interesting competition is to weave in the concept of wholesome nutrition, safe foods into the city infrastructure as such. So this concept is, in fact, still in its nascent stage the world over, and if India does manage to scale it up, and it could be one of the pioneering countries in this aspect. So it's like looking at food holistically. Like if we think of proper housing, safe water, the similar manner when cities are being developed or thought of, we should also look at safe and wholesome food for the citizens of that particular area. So here, the nodal officer of any city would have to fill up the form. I think the process is undergoing, and ultimately FSSAI will select about, I think, 11 cities, which will, the idea is that these cities will have a vision. They will based on Eat Right India programs. So they would have either thought of proper campaigns which will bring about behavior change in consumers, or they have carried out certifications of various of their food business operators, or they have got Eat Right campuses in the form of healthy campuses in schools or colleges or offices. So, or maybe they are educating their public regarding safe food in terms of adulteration, etc. So these cities need to have a vision, what they plan to do in the course of months. In fact, they'll self-assess themselves. They'll have a smart scorecard at the end of it, and based on this, the FSSAI will select these cities. It's going to be helpful in terms of the cities gaining prominence in the country. It may boost tourism. It'll also be beneficial for the food business operators, because if a food business operator gets a good or a positive tag or a good certification, I as a consumer, when I go and consume food at that particular outlet, I'm going to be more confident or more satisfied that at least I'm having food which is safe and is healthy for me or my family. So it's like a win-win situation on both sides. So both sides benefit. So I think this should throw up some very interesting results for our cities. Yes.
Absolutely. We're talking today of sports, exercise, and fitness as well. So healthier fat, protein powder, good nutrition. Do you think that can enhance sporting performances, or what, according to you, is a well-planned nutritious diet that could meet an athlete's needs?
Okay, so if we are specifically talking about sports persons, then of course, because they are spending a lot of energy, they need good muscle strength. So a healthy diet will go in a long way for people who are involved in any form of sporting activity, and depending upon which category of activity, which category of sports they are in. There are specific sports nutritionists who can plan out diets for these individuals, which aim at particular kind of a sporting activity, whether they are athletes who run long distances, or those who are sprinters because they require a burst of energy for a very short duration, whereas people who are into, say, weightlifting, so their requirements will vary. Nonetheless, what is important to be kept in mind is that the diet has to be as natural in form as possible. It has to be wholesome. Nothing in excess is needed. Protein powders are, if they're being touted as supplements for proteins. Yes, if your diet is not able to provide you enough protein, you can consume protein powders. But I have also seen this trend of consuming protein powders amongst non-competitive athletes or sports persons as well. In fact, we see a lot of youngsters who are, say, joining a gym. They will start consuming these protein powders, and I personally feel it's really not needed for them. Extra protein is in fact harmful for the body. It may harm the kidney. We don't really need that extra protein. And if our diet is well balanced, that much protein will be provided by the diet per se. So, we always talk about food and nutrition and diet charts being something really, something magical which is going to happen. But if we look at our traditional diets, these diets are wholesome and very, very healthy. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But tell us about dairy versus plant-based nutrition.
Okay, so dairy protein is protein from animal sources, and it is said that they have a higher quality in terms of the amino acids or the components which protein is made up of. They have a higher quality that way. But that doesn't mean that vegetarian proteins are poor in their quality. It is possible that some amino acids may be missing in certain vegetarian proteins. But if we have a combination of various vegetarian foods, these deficiencies of maybe a singular or maybe two amino acids in one protein is compensated and made, you can make it a wholesome food. So I'll say, for example, egg is a complete protein. It is said that, it has all the essential amino acids the body needs. So if a person who is not consuming eggs, that doesn't mean that they are depriving themselves of any sort of a less amount of protein. So they have soya, they have pulses, they have all forms of other leguminous foods which they can consume, which will be beneficial for them as far as protein is concerned.
Right. Probiotics and vitamins in maintaining a healthy gut, your views.
Okay, so one must understand that probiotics are basically live organisms which one person consumes, and these live organisms reach the intestines, and they provide us with a lot of benefits. So probiotics have come into a lot of focus these days. People are talking about probiotics, and in fact even prebiotics, which are basically foods which will in the intestine help in the growth of probiotics. So both probiotics and prebiotics are essential, and there are innumerable functions, innumerable roles which these foods, which these organisms have to play in our body. And the most important one being gut health. But more than that, I mean, they help us. They've been shown to be beneficial in diarrhea. They've been shown to be beneficial in allergies, lactose intolerance, even eczema. So even antimicrobial, antibiotic resistance, diarrhea.
Absolutely. Wonderfully put. Now, I want you to also tell our viewers about gluten-free grains. I want you to tell our viewers, I'll say this again. I want you to tell our viewers about gluten-free grains like chia. Do you think they're more beneficial? What is your take on, gluten?
Yes, so gluten intolerance is a condition. It's like a immune condition which a person develops, and they're not able to tolerate wheat and wheat products and wheat bran. But it's important that if there is a problem, so maybe the signs and symptoms, which will include, say, things like repeated diarrhea or weight loss, or bloating or flatulence, and people are not able to tolerate wheat products, then it's important that they get themselves tested and not decide on their own that they have gluten intolerance, because many of them may not have gluten intolerance. But if you do have gluten intolerance and tests do indicate that you have this problem, then you need to be on a lifelong diet which is gluten-free. So yes, there are several seeds and varieties of grains available which are gluten-free. But even if you don't want to go in for these so-called expensive seeds like the chia seeds, if you are consuming foods which are rice-based, or if you can add besan to your diet, which is going to be gluten-free. So basically, the idea is to eliminate wheat, but the other grains can be added and the diet can be made gluten-free.
Our learnings from the pandemic have been very varied.
Yeah.
I mean, like sedentary lifestyle. What should you do to amend this?
Right. For the last 2 years now, literally 2 years, we have been mostly working from home, or even if it is we are going to work, it's been very limited movement outside home, and people have been sitting at home. So this lack of movement, or this lack of moving out of home, has resulted in a problem of being sedentary. And this has sort of a negative impact on health. So it's important that we become regimented. It's important we pick up any activity which can be incorporated while sitting at home. It could be yoga, it could be spot jogging, it could be stretching, and there are a lot of workouts now available online which you can just plug on to, and they'll keep telling you what all exercises to do. But the idea is to be regimented and follow a routine, because no amount of eating well will be very sufficient for us unless we are physically active, because we, with increasing age, the energy balance, or the homeostasis, so to say, always tilts towards the right. That means we consume more than we spend more energy. So we have to be at balance, and to maintain that balance so that we don't put on weight, we don't have other issues of increasing calories in our diet, maybe hypertension or insulin resistance. All that will be taken care of exercise. Exercise is beneficial not only for just reducing weight or keeping fit, but it will reduce the blood pressure, it will decrease blood sugar levels if there are any such problems. And also, very importantly, again, coming back to mental health, exercise releases endorphins in our body, which gives us this very positive, very nice feeling. And even if you don't lose weight, you will at least start feeling that I've lost weight, and it's really a very good feeling.
Absolutely. Please tell us about your vision of the nutritional landscape in India as we end this conversation.
So, a lot is being done in the area of nutrition. In fact, nutrition, I would say these are heydays for nutrition, because it's really becoming the focus of every conversation we have. A lot has been done. There's a lot of government push as well in the area of nutrition with the Poshan Abhiyan, etc., especially in the area of public health nutrition. And we are seeing a lot of gains. It's not that we are really doing very poorly. Like neonatal mortality has come down, vaccination rates have improved. There is a lot of digitalization in the area of nutrition as well. Most of these Anganwadi workers have those portion trackers with me. They are able to calculate they put on the length, the height, or the weight of the children, and they're able to find out whether the child is undernourished or is in form of any malnutrition status. So there is a lot of things which are happening. But what is important for us to understand is that there is a government push and there are a lot of policies in place. But ultimately, it comes down to families. Ultimately, it comes down to people at home, what you're eating. A very small example, like salt and sugar, they are acquired tastes. What the family is consuming at home, what the food environment is at home, what is the portion size of the food they are consuming. Even if in rural areas, maybe there is a gender bias. Khana to ban raha hai, and there is proper, safe, wholesome food which is made, but is the girl child getting enough food? So it's ultimately down to us. Yes, there is a lot of behavior change communication. There's a lot of campaign happening, which is needed for bringing up this change in the nutritional status of our population.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Our deepest and warmest gratitude goes to Herbalife Nutrition for this initiative to Eat Right India, FSSAI, and which is bringing a huge awareness in the society to make a healthier India. A special shout out to our broadcasting partners, the Josh app, Daily Hunt, One India, and Mitro for helping us reach millions of citizens. Thank you so much.